Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay. What comes to your mind when you hear the words Nazi Holocaust? Does the mass genocide of nearly 6 million Jewish and other minority groups come to mind? How about the horror stories and horrible accounts of the Holocaust survivors in death camps such as Auschwitz-Birkenau? When I think of the Holocaust, one subject really intrigues me. He is notoriously known to millions as the Angel of Death, a vicious Nazi doctor employed at Auschwitz-Birkenau death camp in present-day Poland. His name is Joseph Mengele, the sadistic mastermind behind the countless horrific medical experiments performed at Auschwitz-Birkenau. Many of these medical experiments were done in horrific conditions, and many prisoners were operated on without the use of any anesthetic. As a result of these horrific conditions, many experiment victims died from these surgeries or post-infections. I wanted to inform my audience about the early life of Joseph Mengele and his role in the Nazi regime, and how he became known as the Angel of Death, the most feared and the most psychotic man of all of Auschwitz-Birkenau. To truly understand Joseph Mengele, we must explore his humble beginnings as a child, growing up in Günzburg, Bavaria, Germany. Joseph Mengele was the eldest of three children, born on March 16th of 1911. Growing up, Joseph was a very popular, intelligent, and refined young man, according to www.auschwitz.com. Joseph Mengele earned a PhD in anthropology from the University of Munich in 1937. Throughout his studies, Joseph Mengele became increasingly fascinated with racial hygiene and the study of twins. After Joseph Mengele finished his studies and research work at the University of Munich, he enlisted in the Nazi Party in 1937. Dr. Joseph Mengele obtained his medical degree and started to work alongside the SS German Army, and later, in 1940, volunteered to the medical service of the Waffen-SS, an armed wing of the Nazi Party during World War II. When Hitler declared war on the Soviet Union on June 22nd of 1941, Mengele began to rise in military rank when he pulled German soldiers from a burning tank. For his heroism, Mengele earned the Iron Cross and the Wound Badge for the care of the German peoples. Joseph Mengele's reputation from there will take a drastic turn from war hero to sadistic killer known as the Angel of Death. After his discharge from the German army in 1943, Mengele took a medical position at Auschwitz-Birkenau death camp. At this time, Joseph Mengele was promoted to the rank of Captain SS, which he used greatly to his advantage to instill fear into millions of inmates. Joseph Mengele would always have this look that said, "I am the power." He would stand on a podium as the railroad cars came to a halt, loaded with thousands of people to be put to their death. With a flick of his cane, he would direct the unfortunate inmates to their death in the gas chambers to the left, or work them to death to the right, according to Auschwitz.dk. Joseph Mengele coveted twins for his sadistic experiments. Joseph Mengele would search the crowds feverishly for twins. Mengele would entice twins with candy to gain their trust, and then subject them to horrific experiments. Mengele would subject these twins to sex change operations without anesthetic. Mengele would inject lethal injections into subjects to test their effects, and also injected dyes into the eyes of victims to attempt to change their eye color, which left many victims blind and in excruciating pain. Once Mengele was done using a set of twins, they were murdered at once, and their bodies would be dissected for further experimentation. Survivors of Mengele's experiments recall incidents where Joseph Mengele placed victims in pressure chambers, crushing them to death. Joseph Mengele castrated young boys without the use of anesthetic and froze individuals to death to test the effects of frostbite on their skin. Lastly, Joseph Mengele would remove vital organs and limbs. Mengele performed a stomach surgery on a subject with no anesthetic removing pieces from the stomach with the subject screaming in pain and further passed out from a state of shock. Later, Mengele performed an open-heart surgery with the subject fully aware of what was going on. Joseph Mengele's experiments were both physically and psychologically traumatizing. Forced isolations was subjected to inmates to test endurance. One tremendously disturbing experiment included a pair of gypsy twins. Dr. Mengele had sewn the twins' head, hands, and feet together, connecting the veins together. As a result, the twins died from infection, according to www.oscarschindler.com. Dr. Mengele's experiments have been deemed to have no medical or scientific certainty whatsoever. Many believe it was Mengele's asserting his power over people that feared him the most, and that was his victims. Since Auschwitz-Birkenau's liberation on January 27, 1945, Joseph Mengele and other leading Nazi figures immigrated to South America to avoid persecution. Joseph Mengele died on February 7th of 1979 in Beritoga, Brazil, from a stroke. A manhunt for Joseph Mengele's body has been conducted by DNA results. He was buried under the alias name of Wolfgang Gerhard. To conclude, survivors of Mengele's experiments still remember the impact Mengele has had on their lives and for the rest of their lives to come. Survivors of Mengele's experiments are permanently paralyzed and have still not recovered from the aftermath of Joseph Mengele's experiments. However, the hardest obstacle to recover from is the mental scars that Joseph Mengele has left on his victims for years and years to come. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My lovely audience.